Hey everybody, it's Electroman here, or Gent, and today I'm back with another video for y'all. This is another one of my videos for the mentality series of videos I'm going to be making in the next few weeks, next few months. And first, I just wanted to say thank you so much for all the support on the last video. It was awesome to see all the, the views, the comments, the messages, the people who were saying that this is, something that it was awesome to hear kind of put into words, that this is a concept that people haven't really thought about. It was just really all cool and great to hear everything because I kind of wasn't expecting it to go, as big as it did. And it was just awesome to see that people cared about it and, wanted to learn more, and just we're kind of seeing a different perspective on things. Because my goal with these videos, just in the first place, is that I'm hoping that y'all can take away something from each of the videos and bring it to your own, little communities wherever you live. Because I know that mentality is something that a lot of people struggle with in the community. And I know that it's something that if we can all get better at, that we'll all just become a better community as a whole. So I'm hoping that, by some of these videos, something will change within people's communities. I'm already seeing, even within my own community here in New England Melee, that, people within here especially are talking about this stuff more, which is just great. So that's kind of the goal with the videos. And I just wanted to say thank you so much again for all the support. And I'm hoping that y'all enjoy them and like the rest of the videos that I'm going to be making. But yeah, and then also I did want to talk about, disclaimer that I'm going to be giving at the start of every video, of course, is that, these videos are all subjective to the way that I think about mentality, the way that they're structured, the way I talk about them, just even the topics in general are all based on what I think is important to mentality and improving at it. So if you don't agree with the topics, that's totally fine, right? And in fact, it might not even be helpful for a lot of you. But I don't want to be, I'm not trying to say like I'm speaking objective truths here, or I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know from my perspective how mentality has worked and how I've improved at it, and I'm hoping that some of that knowledge can perhaps help some of you as well. So in no way do I know the exact truth, okay? I'm not speaking the gospel, as I've said in the past, right? It's just kind of my own truth, right, when it comes to mentality. So let's just get into this next topic, right? So the title of this video, as you can see, it's what do you really want? And this topic, actually, I will quickly talk about how this connects to the previous topic, because I actually think I'm going to do this in most of my videos, is connecting this topic with the one before them, because they're all kind of chained together and they link together. So if you think of it like a flowchart, right? With boxes and lines and everything like that, I would say that the first box in the flowchart is letting them have their moment. And the reason I say that is because that sets you up for this competitive landscape that you're kind of setting foot on, this journey, right? And if you can't accept that you're not going to be able to win every match, of course, and how to allow people to feel that success, you'll never find any success in, really in competitive Melee, and there'll always be a cap on that, right? But so I think that is that's the core of mentality, and improving a competitive Melee is letting them have their moment, right? So then the question is, where does this topic fit in? Where does what do you really want fit in, right? So I would not say that it is a direct progression from the first box. It's not like I'm drawing a line straight up and there's a new box and that's, what do you really want? In fact, I would say that this topic is more so to the left or right. It's kind of like a branching off point, but not entirely like a progression of sorts. It's almost like this topic is supposed to be in tandem with the other topic. And the reason for this is because there's a lot of ways you can answer this question, and the way that you answer it will set you up on the path that you take. Because with a lot of these questions that I'm going to be answering, these concepts I'm going to be taking on in these videos, right, they're very much going to be catered around competitive Melee and improving at the competitive side of the game, right? But if what you really want out of the game has nothing to do with competitive Melee or that side of the game, then a lot of these aren't really going to matter for you, or maybe they'll be taken in a different lens, right? So again, this video is really in tandem with the previous video. And even in some ways, you could argue that this should be the first thing, is knowing what you want out of the game. But because the majority of these videos, if not all of them, are going to be catered around a competitive lens of the game, that's why I think letting them have their moment is where that starts, right? But this is also important because even though you can answer this question in like a competitive way, the way that you answer it in that competitive way is also really important and will set you up for the rest of your mentality as well. So anyway, with that being said, let's just kind of get into the topic, right? What does it mean to answer the question of what do you really want? Well, I already talked about it a little bit, right? There's multiple ways to answer this question. First, I'll talk about kind of what does it mean to answer this question? Like, why is it important to answer this question in the first place, actually, right? So the reason it's important to answer what do you really want, and this is actually something that I ask people if I do lessons with people, like if we're doing analysis on a VOD or something, or if we're just talking about like how do we, because I talk about mentality with people, right, a lot. This question comes up a lot when they're really confused about what they want, because I want you to be able to answer that definitively. If you can't answer what do you really want in a definitive manner, if you can't tell me exactly what your goal is, what you want out of Melee, right, then there's a pretty big problem there. And the reason that there's a problem is because if you can't answer that question, it will make it hard for you to understand like why you're putting in all the time that you are, right? If you don't have a goal in mind, it can almost seem like you're kind of like moving in circles, that you're wasting time, right? And that's never something that you want to be able, that's never stuff that you want to experience, really. When it comes to a hobby or something that you love, a passion, right? You want to be able to know what you want. And so if you are able to answer this question, you can cater the rest of the way that you talk about the game, the way that you learn the game, your mentality about the game. A lot of those things are going to be improved if you can answer this question in a definitive manner, right? And I think the problem is that when I ask this question to people, when I talk about it, right, a lot of people don't know the answer to this question. They don't have a real answer. And they're kind of playing and letting the clock like continue, right, without a real answer to this question of, what do you really want, right? So I think that that's why it's important, is you need to be able to answer this question because it will set you up for a future of the game that is efficient, is healthy, and makes sense for what you are looking for, right? So let's talk about the ways that you can answer this question, right? So one way that you can answer this question is like, okay, what I want out of the game is nothing competitive, right? I want to have fun, right? I want to have fun. I want to do cool combos. Like, that is an angle that you could answer this question. And that's actually why it's important to sit down and think about the answer to this question for you, like as an individual, right? Because if you come out of this and learn that you don't actually want to do anything competitive, like you just want to do really sick clips, sick combos, be flashy, right? Then you don't have to stress over all of the competitive stuff. You don't have to waste time there. You don't have to stress your mental energy there. You can just focus on what makes the game fun for you. Because that's really at the core of what everything is you want it to be fun. And the way that it's fun is you figure out what makes it that. What is it that you want out of the game? So if your answer to the question is, I want to make sick clips, I want to do cool combos, that's awesome, right? Do that. Do more of that, right? But if the answer to that question is, well, I want to be really good, right? I want to be PR'd in my state. I want to be top 100, right? These are a lot of different answers that people may give, right? But like if your answer is one of those, that will help you cater the rest of your mentality and your goals, because that's where you can start creating smaller goals from this topic, right? As a whole, okay? So how do you start with all this, right? I mean, where do you even begin? Because you might be asking, well, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. How do I even get a goal, right? And the thing that I always tell people is just, you need to sit down, right? You need to, like, if you feel like every day you're playing the game, you get frustrated, you don't really know, like, you're questioning whether it's an important part of your life and whether you want to spend more time in it, right? And whether you can afford to spend more time and all of those other questions that come with that. If you're having all those things, then you need to, like, for a couple hours in a one day or whatever, like, sit down and start thinking about, like, what do you really want out of Melee, okay? Because that moment of you thinking about it is going to be like, it's going to be very new for a lot of you. I mean, a lot of people don't really sit down and think about that stuff. They're just kind of playing the game, again, letting the clock run out, and it's going to be a new experience, Let me talk a little bit about, like, me, for example, my personal kind of component when it comes to this question, right? So for me, this goal has changed a lot, of course. I think when it comes to goals in Melee and what I really want, it's changed over time. I want to be the best in my friend group. I want to be, number one in my city or the best in my state or whatever the case may be, right? But, like, these days, I would say that my goal, or what I really want out of the game, is I want to be able to play good Melee, okay? And that concept is a whole other concept I could spend hours on talking about what it means to play good Melee. But I think when it boils down to it, is just being able to play, like, conscious Melee, like, in a way that I feel like I'm not spamming the same few options and winning every time or something like that. Like, I want to be able to play at the level that, like, players like Zane, Cody, Jmook, like, these players are playing at, right? Where they have an arsenal of tools in the game, and they can compete at that level with all of these tools and really think about it and understand it. And even though, like, when I say conscious, like, of course, a lot of it is subconscious, but conscious in the sense that it's not, like, autopilot. Like, not in the sense that you have 2 or 3 options really well, and that's all that you do. Like, you have this arsenal of tools, this toolbox, and you can pick from it and change almost at will. That's kind of my understanding of what it means to play good Melee, right? So I have this overarching goal of I want to play good Melee. So this now gives me smaller goals to aim to, right? So if I want to play good Melee, like, I have to do consistent analysis, right? If I want to get to be playing good Melee, like, I have to go to tournaments. I have to practice with people that are better than me. I have to think about the game, right? And then with all these goals, like, then I set up, like, okay, well, how am I measuring how I reach that goal and that want, right? Okay, well, top 10 in my state, be regionally ranked, right? Be top 100, right? These are all goals that come from this overarching goal. And it is this thought experiment, right, is a chance for you to really oversee kind of the way that you look at the game in its entirety. Because answering these questions, setting it all up in your brain, or even writing it all out or everything like that, will then allow you to understand, how much time do I want to allot to all these things, right? How much value do I want to put into this game and these goals? Because you might come out of this process and realize, like, well, I don't know if I want this thing in Melee more than what I want out of other things in my life. I don't know if I want that. And that's okay, because that will allow you to then put a value on that and change the way that you live your life around it. if you're really busy with school or with work or something, right? Doing this for a number of the things that you're working on can be really good, because you can then figure out like what is Melee's value to the rest of the things that you're doing and how can you fit it in. If you can't fit it in, that's fine. Like it just doesn't work out, right? And then that value will make it so that you don't feel like you're wasting a lot of time or wasting a lot of effort or mental energy, right? I know a lot of different players, a lot of different people that like, they always talk about, well, you know, it would be great to be good at something or good at Melee or something, but then like they never really spend time practicing and they're always just kind of confused about what they want. But if you sit down and do this thought experiment, just literally ask yourself, you know, what is it that I want out of Melee? And start thinking about like, how does this compare to the other things that I want in my life? You can set up a value system and then figure out how to put it into your schedule, into your life. And then I guess the question would be, well, okay, how does all this fit to mentality in general, right? How do you know, what does this mean for a mentality, and how does it all fit in? So I would say that being able to answer this question, it will make you a healthier person. I've already mentioned it a few times at this point, but you will take Melee in a much healthier manner if you know what you really want out of it, right? A lot of people get frustrated when they lose in tournament, of course, right? And or they'll get frustrated and not improving, whatever the case may be, and they start having this toxic relationship with the game. But if you are able to do this thought experiment, come out of it realizing, well, I don't really care if I'm better than the next person, I just want to do really cool combos, right? Then that's all you focus on. And that will mean that your mentality, how you look at the game, it will change because you answer this question. And I mentioned in the last video, but a common theme in all of these concepts is you want to stray away from hating the game. Like, you want to stray away from it. And it's unfortunate, but believe it or not, most people, maybe not most people, but a lot of people that play this game, unfortunately, they hate it. It's like, or they hate a lot of different parts of it, right? And it's a shame, because I think that if a lot of them sat down and really thought about it, right, they could then cater their mind, their mentality, based on this question to that. Especially if you are able to think it all out and write it down, come up with a flowchart or all these goals, right? You can start realizing like, well, if I want to play good Melee, like I have to meet all this other criteria. And then it gets you thinking about other things that maybe you're not doing as well. And it might even help like other parts of your life, right? If you know that like to be a top Melee player, you know, on some level you need to be able to have a lot of stamina in a tournament or something, that might equate to you eating a little healthier or something like that, right? Or getting better sleep. These are things that come because you've done that question, like you've answered that question of what is it that you really want. That's where all these things come from. And it's really cool once you do it, because you start seeing like how other people haven't answered that question, and you start to regain some of that love for the game. And I think this will really set in stone exactly the rest of your pathway when it comes to improvement and the journey of improvement and your mentality. Because, and this is kind of where it comes to be like tangential with, you know, letting them have their moment and this whole big flow chart. Because a lot of these other concepts I'm going to talk about, like none of this stuff is going to really be super helpful to you if you don't really know what you really want. Like if you know in your heart of hearts that you just want to do cool combos, and I keep mentioning that because I mean it's a very like, that actually is a very common want, but people don't really like verbalize it a lot. It's just be flashy. If that's what you really want, then like some of the concepts I'm going to talk about aren't really that important to you. Like if I'm going to talk about how to like have a mentality in a set or something, or like talk about like game plans or something like that, right? That's stuff that, I mean, I think is going to be less helpful for you. But if your answer to the question is, well, I want to be the best player in the world, or I want to play good melee, right? You're going to realize very quickly that the criteria for that stuff requires you to answer some of these other questions, and it will set you up for success when you're watching the rest of my videos when it comes to mentality. So really, I mean, there's just a lot of different pieces here, and I know that I'm kind of like, I am definitely, when it comes to this question in general, I think there is a lot more, it's a lot more open as a question, and it's hard for me to definitively break down the question in its entirety, right? Especially in like a video form. I mean, we're 20 minutes in at this point, and like I don't want to take longer than half an hour with these videos, really. I can't break down, I think, the question too far, in the time that I have. But I think answering this question will do a few things, so we'll go over some of the things it will do for you if you're able to answer these questions. It'll be able to give you a better mindset on where you're at with the game, right? And if that means that you need to take less time with the game, that's fine. If it means you need to take more time, that's also fine. It will create you will ground yourself in exactly what you want out of the game. And that will help you in different parts of your life. It'll help your schedule. It'll help maybe some health habits, right? All those things. It will take away perhaps a very toxic relationship that you have with the game and move you towards a more like happy relationship with the game and a positive relationship where, because you know what you want, you know at all moments how to treat like the work that you're doing and the purpose that you have with the game, the practice that you put in, the time that you spend, all those will be more connected, and it will make it easier for you to have fun with the game and love the game again if you really know like why you're there in the first place, right? And then I would also say that it will set you up for a successful journey with the game. Because again, if you have this in your heart of hearts, you know you want something, but you feel like you're living an expectation of what people have for you or what you think you might want, then you're never going to really be 100% certain. And that journey that you spend, that improvement process that you go through, right? All these things, they'll never be really 100% understood, implemented, and put into place if you don't answer this question in the first place, right? And all of these different components, right, that come from this are all incredibly important, and it's why this video is my second concept that I'm really talking about. It's because it will set you up for the future, and it's just important to understand that a lot of people are never gonna, unfortunately, don't ever answer this question, and they end up spending a lot of wasted time. They end up hating the game at some point and leaving it, and they have this weird expectation of themselves that isn't really riddled in truth or in their heart of hearts, and it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. For me, I already talked about it, but when I was able to answer that question, it made it a lot more clear for me, especially, as someone that wanted to, improve a lot. I knew I had to take a lot of things more seriously, including mentality. And so I think that, really when it comes down to it, a lot of my improvement in mentality came from me being able to answer this question in the first place. So it's a really interesting concept. Again, not a topic that people, I think about a lot, but I know for sure that a lot of you have not done something like this before, and I think it will help you tremendously if you're able to sit down, really go through this thought experiment and understand, why are you here? What do you really want out of Melee? What do you really want out of Melee? So I know that this video, I've, went into a lot of different parts here, mainly because this video in general isn't like a again, I guess this topic in general, there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. A lot of different pieces to this topic. It's not, I think, as clear perhaps than like letting them have their moment and perhaps some other topics. I think this topic is probably going to be the most what's a good word? I think the most malleable and perhaps the most like moldable and unclear, free form, like all these words to really describe this topic and this concept of every concept I'm probably going to talk about in this series of videos, which is why it might seem like I went to a lot of different places, but it really all is like all of it is important, and you should understand all the different pieces. But there's a lot of different places you can go with it. But I think when it comes down to it, if you are able to spend some time away from the game, sit down and think, what do you want out of it? Why are you here in the first place? It will set you up for everything else that you put in all the rest of the time. Will be able to be understood and appreciated because you answer this question. So with that being said, appreciate all y'all for watching. We're at 26 minutes for today. Thank you for listening. I know that these videos can feel like a podcast, I think. So I hope that, perhaps you enjoy it in that sense. I know that if you're looking for very clear-cut videos, I doubt that you'll find those in my videos for sure. But I hope that I've been a little helpful here. And of course, please, any feedback will be incredibly helpful. Comments. If you have further questions about this kind of stuff, you can always message me and we can try and maybe even sit down and think about it specifically for you, because I know that, not everybody's the same, and we'll all have different angles to this question, right? So yeah, with that being said, thank you so much, y'all, for watching. Appreciate it. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the support. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.